For this opportunity. As somebody who has been indirectly and directly affected by lung cancer for 36 years, I can't even begin to tell you how life-changing and life-saving these online communities can be. My story is a bit complicated, so... Okay, now I can change it. Up, down, right? All right, so there we go. My story started a long time ago. In the interest of time, I'll try to keep it short. But when I was 13, two of my grandparents died of lung cancer within weeks of diagnosis and within weeks of each other. 6 months later, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. He died 3 months later at the age of 41. Then 10 years later, my close Aunt Dee Dee was diagnosed with lung cancer. We were lucky. She had a surgical cure and was healthy. 4 years after that, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. Unfortunately, there was no cure, and my mom died 6 months later at the age of 54. I was 28, pregnant with my second, and after losing my dad, losing my mom was my worst nightmare come true. But I was fortunate to have a second mom and my Aunt Dee Dee. Only about a year after my mom died, Dee Dee developed a third lung cancer, and she died a year and a half later at the age of 56. So needless to say, I was a disaster, a complete hot mess, and there was nowhere to turn to. I called the American Lung Association, was really the only place to call. And they really didn't do anything. And so I had just moved from the city of Chicago to the northern suburbs. Coincidence or fate, Longevity Foundation had just gotten off the ground, so I got involved, and it became my vehicle to fight back. I had no control over my losses, but I did find a way to redirect my anger into something positive. The other control I had was to be my own advocate, because at the time as well, when my mom was diagnosed, they said there's no genetic link at all. You know, there's no way, you're not at risk. And I was like, okay, I do not want my kids to ever have to go through what I went through. So I did begin getting periodic scans, and all was good until 2009, and I became the patient. I was 39 years old. I had 4 small kids, and I was president of Longevity at the time. Truly, the irony of that and being diagnosed with the same disease that I literally watched kill both my mom and my dad is still so surreal. But I won't go through everything. But in the past 10 years, I've had 2 surgeries. I've been on targeted therapy. I've treated 3 nodules with SBRT. And currently, I am working on what my next steps in treatment will be. It will be a lifelong roller coaster ride for me, definitely, but because of a better understanding of the disease, because of advancements in treatment, I have had the chance that my parents didn't have. But just as important as the medical care that I've received, the advocacy work I have done has literally, but mostly figuratively, saved my life. It has no amount of therapy could help me work through my losses, or even my own diagnosis like my advocacy work has. From the beginning, it allowed me to choose the role that lung cancer was going to have in my life, because without it, it would be depressing, scary, and all about the disease. You know, a lung cancer diagnosis is that storm that rocks the boat. And, you know, I found that finding meaning in any physical or emotional suffering really gives it a purpose. And it's truly helped me work through everything that I've been through. But what drives me every day is I don't want anyone else to ever have to go through what I went through. So online communities, those are fairly new, right? So my support was when, I got involved with longevity. That was that people who had something similar to me. But online communities help patients make connections with other patients, and also caregivers connecting with other caregivers in the same situation. And those are some of the different events that I've been to. But cancer fosters an instant intimacy, right? So nobody can understand unless they've lived it. And in these situations and on the online communities, what I found is you can discuss with others who have been in the same situation with you things that you don't want to burden your family with. And you can be open and you can be honest and you could, you could talk about real intimate things. And the same goes for caregivers. I mean, I've been on both sides. I can honestly tell you that some ways it's much harder to be the caregiver than it is to be the patient. Cancer takes an emotional toll on the entire family and on our friends. And, they put their fears aside to take care of us. So these communities are also about caregivers and are there for caregivers to provide, receive, give support. I think that social media is a great place, a great platform, and there's many different platforms that groups can be on. But what do they offer for patients and their family? Hope, support, education, empowerment, and connections. And it's a way for people to share their story and connect. And research has shown that patients who engage in online communities during their journey with cancer feel more informed. They are more confident about their treatment. And regardless of what it is, it works too for people who have physical limitations or even for people who like to take the behind-the-scenes approach. Or live in rural areas. We found that our communities, that's really where they gather most their information and will come back to us and say, because of what I learned on this site, I went for a second opinion. I talked to my doctor about this. And some of these people will even say, I've never met a lung cancer patient in my life face to face. So they're really powerful on that respect. Also, that's the support and education that I didn't click to, even though I had it highlighted. But again, information, tips for communicating with your healthcare team, symptom and side effect management, that's been huge because some people have tried certain things that other people have not heard about from their healthcare team, or certain foods, just different things that have really helped other people. Asking the right questions. Some people go on our sites and they don't know what to ask. They don't, if we say, did you have biomarker testing? What's biomarker testing? Well, so it really is informative. And in a lot of ways, a lot of people have gone on to become lung cancer advocates as well. What do online groups offer providers? So this is an important one as well. Education. Nobody knows what it's like to be a patient except the patient. So we can educate our providers on what's important to us, on what our needs are, on what we think are the gaps. Clinical trial awareness. We are the ones that really put into our community and let people know about, different clinical trials. Or in some cases, we'll come back like from a meeting and we'll say to our doctors, hey, we just talked to this company and they're about to start this trial. This would be great to have. So there are a lot of different ways with trials that we can help. Assistance with referrals, which I just sent someone to Josh. recently. But TKI, toxicity management, understanding the patient's need and preference. And again, I think that is really the most important. But first and foremost, the most important advocacy work that you do is for yourself. Make sure that that's what our groups provide too. You go on there, you become empowered. That's because you have patients who have been there, done that, walked in the shoes, and everybody, when I tell you, if you're feeling down, the strength of others will lift and help you and carry you through anything. And with the information that you gain, you do become empowered and confident. And many times that can lead to wanting to give back and become an advocate. And being an advocate can be as simple as sharing your story, educating others. For me, through the years, I realized that I didn't have to cure lung cancer to make a difference or to change a person's life. If I helped one person, made a difference in one person's life, that's what matters. So with regard to what we were talking about earlier with our online communities and the oncogene communities, they are truly powerful. In research advocacy, having the ability to network with specific disease parameters has been very valuable to the patients, to scientists, to physicians. And one of the greatest recent advances in cancer management has been patient-driven research. Studies that are being conducted as a direct response to our suggestions, to us, the patients. And Ivy and I, as Josh mentioned, are co-founders of the EGFR resistors, and she'll talk more about that in a minute. But there are numerous resources out there and opportunities for patients to get involved. They're all different, but the one thing that's the same is that they can save lives in some instances, truly, but they always change lives. And again, I think my family history illustrates the importance of the communities. I remember that helpless, hopeless feeling, watching my family suffer and die from lung cancer. There were no walks anywhere in the country. There were no support groups. There weren't any organizations. There was no compassion or understanding. No one even talked about lung cancer. 18 years ago, there was no lung cancer community at all. But now there is this very large, caring community that is here to fight with you and for you. And it is powerful, and advocacy is a part of it, and that is what gives me, as someone who's been in it for 18 years, hope. I never used the word hope with lung cancer before, ever. And then I got it tattooed on my arm. That's how much I believe it now. So I'm going to have, I think that's a direct result of us patients getting involved, using our voice, and helping each other. So now Ivy will tell you a little more about the research side of our online groups.